member. I am Dorothy Jordan. I am with AARP Alabama, and I have been with, I've worked in the field of aging and older adults in particular for about 20 years now. That's scary to say, but so, and I also am able to, I've also qualified and honored to teach about ageism for older adults and stuff in the college setting so at various times. So very lucky to do that. Very lucky to be here today with our great panelists. And we're going to start it off. I'm going to give a quick introduction of our panelists, and then we'll get kicked off with questions and answers and all that good stuff. And you know, obviously raise your hand, put it in the chat if you have any questions for any of our panelists. We, love to hear from you. So we're going to start with Miss Laura Bethay. She was born and raised in Mobile, and she retired after 31 years from the state of Alabama under the Department of Labor as area manager of Region 7. And during her time with the state, she focused on workforce training and development, overseeing many of the Alabama career centers throughout the state. Before retirement, she was the area manager of Region 7, which covered 9 counties. She continues to support workforce development as she is now the Vice President of Planning and Grants for Southwest Alabama's Partnership for Training and Employment, better known in the community as SWAPT. Did I say that right, Laura? SWAPT? Okay, great. And our next panelist, Deanna Murphy. She relocated from Los Angeles, California to Mobile in 2005. Having served seniors in the nonprofit arena for the past 17 years, she is currently the executive director of Via Health Fitness and Enrichment Center. And she manages, this is just a small piece of what she does. She manages the daily operations of the center, providing over 80 programs and services for active older adults, as well as overseeing the community outreach division that provides a portable wellness clinic, food pantry, and educational seminars to seniors in need. And in her spare time, she loves reading, watching college football, shopping for antiques, and traveling with her husband. And I have to say, I have had the pleasure of knowing Deanna for her 17 years that she's been here, and have worked with her, and she's just very knowledgeable and very great. So I'm really happy that she is here with us today. And then I'm not sure if our other panelist is on yet, but we have Jacquelah Humbert. Okay, great. And she is a native of Youngstown, Ohio, and she is the mother of 1 daughter, and she's lived in Mobile for the last 16 years. And she currently serves as the family engagement coordinator for the Mobile Community Action Early Head Start programs. She oversees the recruitment, eligibility, selection, enrollment, and attendance of 1,111 children and their family services for Mobile and Washington County. She started as a family service worker and has served in several other capacities during her 16-year tenure with the Head Start program, including center supervisor and mental health coordinator. So I just want to welcome all of our panelists. And again, I clearly am part of the older adult part of the ageism spectrum. And I have to thank Trista. She sent out, when she sent the reminders, she sent a website, an AARP website on Disrupt Aging. So if you get a chance, please look at that website. It's really great. And there is a book that our CEO, Joanne Jenkins, published about Disrupt Aging. And if anybody is interested in getting a copy of that, I have several. So you are more than welcome to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat. And I am going to go ahead and get started with our questions to our panelists. And let's see, we are going to start with, of course, why is it important to talk about ageism? And do any of our panelists want to go first? Volunteer?
I guess I will.
I was going to put you on the spot, Deanna. You know that.
I figured you were going to put me on the spot, so I might as well go ahead and volunteer.
I haven't known you for 17 years.
Exactly. Well, first of all, I want to thank United Way, Trista, for inviting me to be on this panel. I'm very honored. Thank you. And thank you, Miss Dorothy, for being here. You are such an advocate for our seniors in the community. So I can't thank you enough for that. Yeah, it's very important to talk about ageism. It's happening across the spectrum, from young to old. I don't think that a day goes by that somewhere, somehow we don't experience it, see it firsthand, hear someone making a rude comment, discriminating against someone, whether it's in the workplace, young and old, when it comes to that, discriminating in the workplace. A lot of older people have a tendency to look at the young and say, you know what, that kid not ready to handle this project, remarks like that. On that flip side, we hear people say, oh my God, she is so old, she's not going to be able to keep up with this, she's not going to know how to handle the technology. So we get it from every walk of life, not to mention the low self-esteem, the health issues that this causes throughout the world.
Great answer, Deanna. Let's see, Laura, would you like to go next?
Well, and I think as well too, that just like Miss Deanna said, and thank you all for including us, and I'm setting in for Mr. Rain as well. But I think, we hear that here at the Career Center. We have lots that come in and we try to guide them on, how to do their resume and, not to put certain things on there, so it would deter anyone from, questioning. Of course, we know that they're not supposed to ask our age, but, every employer or a lot of employers go around the bush, so to speak, on getting that out of you. So we help those with that. And, we're finding that, and I might be jumping the gun some, but we're finding that a lot of employers now are looking for that older worker to come back to work, since the employment's gone, chaotic since COVID. But I do think it's very important. I do think everybody should be aware of, the things that they should and shouldn't, just throw out there to employers.
Great, thank you. And I see we do have Jacquelah on. So good morning, Jacquelah. Would you like to tell us what you think about why it's important to talk about ageism?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was having some issues and it says my internet is in and out. So, but good morning to everyone. I think it's important, and I took your list of questions when I got them, and I was just asking people, about what they thought about ageism and things like that. And a lot of, well, first of all, from what I think, why it's important to talk about it is because with each generation of people, their perception of what they expect or what they see is very important, because perception, is everything. So if we're looking at from the older portion of the spectrum that's looking down, not looking down per se, but looking at our younger generation and, their perception of what they offer to society, their perception of what they're doing and what the type of lifestyle that they live and how our future is going to look based on who they are now as young people. And that's very, and that may cause them, older people anxiety. So that's what that ageism is, they're not for sure of how the future of our country, the future of, business, the future of, everything is based on what they look at now as their perception of young people. And, young people looking up the spectrum at older people, we live in a different age. Our young people now are not the same as young people that were, when I was young and growing up and 16, 17 years old. They face a lot of different things, and they look at older, they look at the older generation as I guess not, I guess maybe they don't understand, the older generation. There's a large gap in how, of course, and how the values and things that the older generation still have, in place, because that's what they were raised with, as opposed to, it seems like there's a lack of value, for in the younger generation. So that, and so when you have those two ends of the spectrum looking at each other, then it's like, where do we meet in the middle so that we can have a, a good society, so that, people are respecting each other, whether you're young or you're older, and things like that. So when you have two different, well, not two different, but all that generational gap, and the gap in value systems, the gap in the perception of how they see each other, then how your community operates is going to look different. So
that's a great point, Jacquelah. And that's, a lot of what, at AARP across the nation, not just here locally, but we've seen a lot of discord between younger folks and older folks, and just trying to figure out how to come together and, work together and understand each other better is really a key in this day and age, because everyone has something valuable to bring to the table. So, talking about this, starting this conversation is wonderful. All right, so next question, and let's see, Laura, I'm going to put you on the spot first, if you don't mind. Let's see, what is happening in the world today that makes it important not to be ageist against people older or younger than ourselves? So what do you think in this world that we're in right now, where everything seems to be happening a million miles an hour? What do we need to make sure we understand?
Well, I mean, I think we should first go about it positive and understand that, like, what we are doing with employers, that a lot of them now are not necessarily discriminating against age, because, as I said, they are really wanting, and they need reliable individuals to come to work, and those that have experience, they will say, or those individuals that are retired, they're trying to get them back into the workforce to say, I know that you can be at work, and I know that you'll be reliable. And so, that on the other hand, as we say that our younger generation doesn't necessarily know all of those work skills, so we're really working with that group. We have workshops here at the Career Center and stuff to let them know, and we fund programs on work-based learning for the younger generation to get them in and know the work style. But I think there's so much going on in the world today that that everybody should, no one should say I'm being discriminated against, because there's so many opportunities out there for us of all ages that employers are really looking for. And like I said, our staff here works with individuals to try to say, don't put the year you graduated college, or don't put the year you graduated high school on your resume. Right. So don't put how many children you necessarily have on your resume. Don't put the information out there that will immediately, when resumes are being reviewed, will immediately put in another pile. You should be able to take the opportunity to present who you are and what qualifications that you have as a person.
Wonderful, great answer. Thank you. Jacquelah, what are your thoughts on what's happening today in the world that makes it really important for us to not be ageist against young or old?
Well, like I said, that how the older, generations had a different work ethic than, you would see, like she said, if you put your, information as far as years and things like that on a resume or something like that, and it causes someone to pause to, looking at your information, because like she said, the work ethic, to me, between the younger generation now and the older generation now, the older generation is completely different. Now we then older people were used to staying on jobs, 20, 30, 40 years, retiring from jobs. Whereas, younger people now, I've been doing some mock interviews with high school students to get them acclimated to being in the interview process and what to look for and all that stuff. And I've had these young people that are in high school say, oh, well, one of the boys that I was talking to said, oh, I just didn't like that they were doing this or doing that. And so he just quit the job. I mean, of course, it was just like a little fast food job or anything like that. But, me, I was always taught, whatever, we don't just walk off a job, you need to, give a 2-week notice, or you need to, see what it is that can be fixed with the job, or things like that. He's just like, oh, I just quit. You didn't have another job, didn't have anything. And so, I mean, things like, people holding jobs or keeping jobs, or even now with, since the pandemic and everything going on, and nobody wants to go back to work, or it seems like, because these young people are like, well, I don't have to do that. So they don't want to work certain types of jobs. They're looking to do different things, but not just job, even in raising families, and how the older generation, whether it's grandma raised her children like this, and we've gotten so far down in the generations where people, mothers and fathers, we see even in our program that, raise their children with a completely different value set than what we were raised with, or what our grandparents raised us with, and things like that. And so we have to consider all of those different things, everything that goes on in life, how the younger generation may be doing it differently, and don't carry the same, or don't put the same weight on the same values that the older generations have done. So even in our parenting styles, like I said, our work ethics, all of these things are things that are going on in the world, that while we have to look at who are we talking to when we are looking at these different things, when we're looking at getting people to get in the workplace, or go back to school, or do whatever. So much stuff is happening in the world that you have to look at each generation's value system, and what they place their value on, because it's not the same things from one generation to the next.
Great, thank you. And Deanna, what are your thoughts on what's happening in the world today that makes it important?
Sure. I think anytime we're dealing with age-based stereotypes, prejudice, discriminations, we limit opportunities, whether it's against the young or the old. We've got to get away from that. I mean, we've got to let people grow and be who they are, and do their thing, and become the person that they are meant to be. You got to take the locks off, let's go. Let's see these. I want to see these young people succeed. I want them to far succeed anything that I have ever seen in my lifetime. And I think sometimes us older folks, like she mentioned, both of them, panelists mentioned, sometimes the young look at the old, that we're antiquated and we don't know what the heck we're talking about. Get out of the way. You've had your turn, and they have nothing to learn from us. And vice versa. It's all about, everyone understanding that each and every one of us matter. We make a difference. We all can contribute and be a positive impact on our community, our families, our careers. Inclusion is a must. And United Way, I must say, you have done a fabulous job of getting this ball rolling, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And yeah, I to sum it up, I do believe that like you said, Deanna, it's everybody's experience is different, and an 18-year-old may have just as much life experience in their short lifetime than an older person. You just don't know. And
Right.
A lot of what like Jacquelah was saying with the work ethic, I think a lot of that, especially during this pandemic, what we've learned is there's younger folks with the technology and everything are looking more for more flexibility than what I think older folks have been used to in the past. You 8 to 5, you were at your job, you were at your desk. And obviously the pandemic has shown us that we can function relatively well without the need to be behind a desk, 40 hours a week. So I think that there's a lot of that we all, again, just need to kind of look at and approach each other in an open and welcoming way. So thank you so much, everyone. That was wonderful. So next questions are kind of related to barriers or needs. But, what is it, and Jacquelah, I'm going to start with you. What is it about ageism that worries you the most? And what are some of the factors that you think can help or prevent us from acting to address ageism in our community? What do you think are some of the factors that that create barriers to young and old?
Well, what worries me the most, to answer that question, is that we sometimes are not considerate, like Ms. Murphy just said. We're not considerate of the individual. We try to place, whether it's young people say old people, or this, or just say old people. We place people in a box, and so if we see one, some of us may, live in different areas and have different experiences as far as life is concerned. And so what worries me is that we take one group of people or one group of young people, and we place them in a box and say all young people are like this, or all older people are like this, or they're all stuck in their ways and don't want to, when the truth is that there are older people, some of them, maybe a majority of them may not be not technologically savvy, or are hardcore as far as the values, and not being as accepting of the ways that young people are doing things now. So they create this stereotype of who each other is, who each group is, and that stereotype perpetuates the perception of this is what they do. So you go into or you address, or you live your life through the lens of that stereotype, making it every older person's issue, or every this person's issue, or every that person's issue, whether you're young or you're old. So like she was saying, it takes away the person's ability to be who they are, by placing, or you people watching and living their life throughout that stereotype, which even further perpetuates the ageism, as they grow older, or continue to live life. And what I think some of the factors that can help or prevent, I've always been, I don't want to say attracted, but I've always geared toward older people. I've always been in the company, or because I think that older people, there's something that we can learn from them, from everybody, from them. And I've always enjoyed being a part of an older crowd, or learning from but that older crowd also has to realize that there's some things that they can learn from the younger crowd as well, the younger generation as well. So if there's some type of program, or that will bring younger people and older people together. I know in some of our church settings I go to, they have where the older people are linked with younger people, teaching them specific skills, whether it's, people don't sew anymore, or, or people don't, make clothes and get their own clothes. I mean, some simple things that, the older generation has to offer that, younger, people don't do anymore in this time and age. And if we link them together and have them have purpose together, and bring, try to teach them some of those things that, that will help them, in life, will be a good way to, I think, help, have them look at each other through a different lens, so, being, mentors to, the younger generation from the older generation, or not even a mentor, and the fact that whether it's the younger generation teaching, older generation computer skills or things with technology. So there are different things, like I said, that we can learn from each other if we're willing to just look at each other from a different perspective, and as to what we can bring to the table and what skills each of us have individually.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Deanna, I'm going to come to you next. What is it about ageism that worries you the most? And what are some of the factors that might keep us from addressing or acting to address ageism?
There's so much that does worry me, but I'd have to say, over the past, probably 7-8 years of my lifetime, the blind indifference we show to our fellow man, just people being, I don't know, I hate the word hatred in itself. We're seeing so much anger across, all ages. I never thought I would see a 100-year-old man or woman, say such negative and horrific things about a younger person and vice versa. Where did our society, when did we arrive at this point? And just how do we get out of it? I think Ms. Humbert really hit it when she was talking about, I think we need to do more intergenerational programs, projects. We've got to bring the old with the young and the young with the old. Both sides have so much to offer. The other side, we just need to be have our ears open, our eyes open, and most especially our heart. Our heart has to be open to this. We have to be willing to listen. We have to be willing to be patient with the other side, and try and understand where they're coming from, their point of view. I think we can learn a lot when we try and truly put ourselves in the other person's position and walk in their shoes and really look hard that way, and not always me. It's not about me. Let's take a look at our fellow man for a change. I think education definitely needs to be a big factor in this. And I love what AARP has brought to the table with this Disrupt the Aging, bringing light to these college students. Most of them want nothing to do with their career with working with seniors. Very few, there's a small percentage. Everybody wants to go the other route and work with children and youth and all that stuff. But once, they understand and they're taught and they learn and are around older, whether it's the professors, whether it's the experiences they bring to the classroom, and they start understanding the point of view from a senior's point, then all of a sudden light bulbs start going on. Next time they're at the grocery store, I'm going to remember to open up that door for that little lady that's walking with the cane and she's got her bag, she's struggling. So I think if we just all take a moment to look around and see who needs help, doesn't matter what age they are, doesn't matter what their background is. If somebody needs assistance, we're all responsible to step up and help that person who needs that help.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Laura, what are your thoughts on what worries you about ageism?
Well, they both hit it, and I was looking, and Miss Autry, empathy, she said that's the key, and it is the key. I take a person like my dad. I tell him, you've got to stay abreast, you've got to stay up on the new modern things. We can take, for instance, just something as simple as a cell phone. I think he has the first iPhone that was ever put out. And he's like, well, I know how to use this. I don't want to change. And I'm like, you have to change. I mean, it took everything to get the flip phone from him. I'm like, Dad, you have to keep up. He's retired and he's not looking to go back to work, but like, you have to keep up. You have, when you go into a store, you go into Verizon, it's usually a younger person there. And what worries me is they do not know how to communicate with the older. They just grab the phone and say, do this, do that. And then, even myself, as older, as far as ageism is concerned, you immediately just shut down, because that younger doesn't know how to communicate with the older. So, they shut down, and it's like, well, I can't do this. And that's my dad's, I just don't know how to do this. But you've got to pay attention, and, the person telling you has got to slow down and show you these things. And, it worries me that I see employers too with the younger, when they have ideas, some of these younger generations, they have great ideas. And, it's like, oh no, that's not going to work. We can't do that. And it shuts that younger generation down, and they immediately, that's when they start job hopping. That's when they, well, I'll just go somewhere else. Just like Ms. Humbert said, I'll just quit, go somewhere else. I can find another job. And, there are jobs are plentiful out there now, so chances are they can find another job. And, the job hopping too is, right now you've got employers taking employees from each other. I'll pay you 50 cents more. I'll pay you $1 more, instead of just investing the time with that employee that they have to show them, whether you're younger, bring your ideas to the table and let's look at them. And then the older generations got to be acceptable. They've got to be able to accept those ideas and not just say, I can't do it, it's not going to work. So that's what worries me with both the younger and older generation now. And I think that, the idea of putting them together and working together to make them understand, because I've worked with youngers and olders. And like I said, I have my dad, and, when my mom was alive, it's like, okay, they may come from the same background or went through some of the same things in life that the younger generation is going through now. And, they could share and help and tell them, this is how I overcame this barrier. This is how I did it. Even though that's the old fashioned way or the old way of doing it, there's probably a younger way, and it's probably the same exact way of getting it done or overcoming the barriers. It's just that the younger generation needs to know how to communicate with those of the older ones.
Right. And that's great. And I think that what we were taught, all three of you mentioned was, empathy for each other and really, communication. And one of the things that I've seen that I'm sure everyone here has seen is that communication is really key. And the older generations and the younger generations communicate completely differently. Younger generations, email and text. Older generations want to talk to you on the phone or, face to face. And it's hard, it's hard for some of the younger generation to really kind of, and especially after we've been in quarantine for 2 years and they've done school on Zoom and everything, it is kind of one of those things where it's a major adjustment for both sides, but and that's what I am hoping as, working here with my volunteers who are older we should be going back in person, hopefully by May, with our volunteers. And I really do hope to, and of course, please reach out to me if you do have some of the younger generation who'd love to kind of talk and come to the table and see what we can do. But I am totally open and looking forward to intergenerational programming and discussions, because I really do think that really the communication and the discussion of it all is key. But I also think that we all need to be in the same room, which has been almost impossible. But and again, that I think that being in the same room, having the communication face to face instead of through text, having that personal face to face empathy is something that is desperately needed. So thank you all, because that was a great conversation, great question, or great answers. All right, so now the next ones are going to kind of talk about, like, if there's a perfect world, if we're living in a world that's really for all ages, what are some of your ideas of what would the perfect all age friendly world look like, and what kind of gives you hope about that? And Deanna, I'm going to put you on the spot first this time.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. Geez, my perfect world, it looks like there's a lot of love, there's a lot of understanding. There is no such word as discrimination. It's all inclusive. It's rainbows and sunshine, a lot of happiness. No illness. Everyone is enjoying life to their fullest and living up to their potential. That's my dream world for everyone.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. All right, Laura, I'm going to go to you next.
Well, I love Deanna's answer. I was sitting here thinking and, mixing the young and old. And I was just thinking of a personal, when my grandparents were alive, the perfect thing was for me to get in the kitchen with my grandmother and stand on a stool and help cook. That's how I learned. It's just like, okay, you've got to do this. And there was no measuring of things. You just dump. Granny, how do you know how to put that much in? Oh, you just know, And, I love that, being outside in the garden with my grandfather. So to me, a perfect world would be the younger generation mixing with the older generation and doing things like that, to be in the kitchen, to be outside and to do that at work as well. Learn from that and then take it to your workplace and treat the older and the younger just like that. Let's get together and work, and you tell me why you do it this way, and then I can either adapt or say, well, why don't you try it this way? So that would be my perfect world.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And Jacquelah, what would your idea be of a perfect age-friendly world?
Like I said, with us working together, working and recognizing that, the older generation, the older person that we're interacting with has something to bring to the table, and that we're able to be who we are and communicate and talk with, one another. Communication, like they were saying, even communication in today's world is, if they have an iPhone, that's where their community is for them. For me, I'm just like, I'm not big. I do text and whatever, but my phone is for me to answer it, talk, and whatever, and probably not even, I don't even do that a whole lot, because I'm a in-person type person. I like to be in front of people and talk to people, because that's how you get to know people,
Right.
through text and through email and all of that stuff. People can share words, but to actually be empathetic with someone, to actually feel what someone else is feeling, or to share with them what the experience that they may be going through, is different in person than it will ever be through text or on the phone, or anything like that. I've never seen a candy striper. I don't recall. I don't know what their roles really were, but to me, those people who we used to, as a young person, we used to visit nursing homes, like on a monthly basis, and sit down and talk with those people that were in the nursing home, and they would get to tell us stories, and we would get to listen to their stories, and we laughed together and things like that, and it brought us together. So I think more interactions, like I said, between the two groups, in person, of course, like you said, which we haven't had a chance to do, would be the best thing for us to, bridge that gap and show, love. Like they were saying, we don't show a whole lot of love, and that's because sometimes, our younger people may not have been shown a lot of love, so they don't know how to show it, to older people. But I think that we all have it within us to give, but we just need to learn how to, how to give it, how to show it, and how to basically just support one another and be, like she said, who we're called to be, who we're meant to be. Her Miss Murphy's idea to me, I mean, she's saying all of these things, that's like heaven on earth,
Yeah.
heaven, that's heaven, on earth, to be no sickness, no disease. We would love to have all of that, but even in all of that, having young people place value on the older, generation, so that it's not even a question. If I see you, trying to put your groceries in your trunk, or trying to, open the door, and I'm, right there, or trying to, anything, it's not even a question that I'm going to jump into, action and help you do that thing. And it's not looked at as, oh, are you trying to rob me, or are you trying to, things like that.
Right.
Like I said, that perception. So I think communication and us getting together, and this younger generation placing that emphasis and that, respect back to, respect of the
Right.
older person, because there, to me, there is a lack. It used to be, and it's sad, that there was a certain way that we knew not to act, or not to say, or not to do in front of older people. But today, with some younger people, I mean, really young people, not, and even younger adults, it's just not that way anymore. They say, they do, whatever, anything, but we have to be careful, again, not to say all of them do it, because it's not a lot of them that do it. But just understanding the background, or trying to, and being empathetic of what, people have gone through, which is why they have the perception they have in their own lives towards other people.
Great, thank you. And Diane McCaskey asked a really great question. How does ageism intersect with other dimensions of diversity, such as race, gender, when it comes to being hired to administer services at a nonprofit, being the recipient of the services? And, I think that it does intersect a lot, especially with women and people of color. The way the age it works, and of course I'm gonna give this to our panelists too. But I personally think that being that the older generation has come from the generation of civil rights and the generation of women's rights and things like that. I think that it intersects extremely closely. I think that there are, older people do, in certain cultures, do have a distrust of medical professionals. I mean, that's something to think about when you are in the nonprofit realm and, doing healthcare work or something like that. So that's a great question, Diane, and I'm going to open it up. Laura, do you want to go first this time and maybe give us your ideas on that?
I think it does, and just as you said, I went to the dentist the other day, and when I walked in, I had a new dentist. And I looked at him, I was like, are you even old enough to have graduated? Because he was so young, and he laughed and he said, I get that all the time. And he was like, do you have a problem? I was like, not at all. As long as you know what you're doing and you can, look at my teeth and all that. But it does have it. I think that it does happen. I think it happens probably more often than we would want it to happen, as far as, having that diversity and such. But when it comes to hiring someone, that's when I think you should just present all of the positive things about you. And whether you're older or a woman or, a man or black or white or whatever, I think that if you just present to them, what you have done, what you can do, then, and you're presenting yourself in a positive way, I think that would, help change that too in the future.
Great, thank you. Jacquelah, do you have any ideas on this one?
I do. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because um, I'm not a native of Mobile. So, and I hope the story that I'm about to share briefly doesn't offend anyone, because it didn't offend me at the time, but it just had caused me to be taken aback. And so basically when I first, maybe a year or two, something like that, I was not familiar, with the parades and all of that stuff. And I was downtown and I had walked into a watch shop. I was trying to get a watch fixed or something like that. And it was an older white couple that was in the that was in the shop. And I guess there had just been a parade or something that, I missed or whatever that had gone by. And the one of the members of the couple said something about I guess it was the marching band girls that had went by or something. And, she made comment, oh, they were so nice and clean. And, the girls, whatever. And I was like, now these were really older. I mean, even then, they were like, they were older. I mean, the man was sitting in the chair behind the thing. And, the lady, I guess they had just finished watching the parade. And I didn't take offense to it, but she said something about, the colored girl or something like that. But I had to, realize, they weren't trying to be, like she was talking about whether, how this comes into ageism or racism or, things like that. The comment that was made was not out of maliciousness. It was just saying that, hey, those girls look really nice, this, that, and the other. But the wording and how it was said, had it been someone, had it not been me, I guess it may be someone else that felt, the need to look at it from a certain perspective, it could have been taken the wrong way. But I didn't take it the wrong way. I just had to realize that, hey, the generation that they come from, if they were like 80 something, at that time, years ago when I went in there, then they're speaking from the context of their generation, and for them, that was a compliment, and saying this that other in that respect. And so I just was just taken aback a little bit, like I said, because I just wasn't used to it. Like I said, I'm not from here, but I also had to look at it as out of my mindset and my frame of mind as to what the intention was. The intention was not to be malicious. The intention was not to be that, the lady was actually paying a compliment, or whatever. So when we look at it like that, and we're not always so fast, even as individuals, to put our own bias on things or take offense to things, and really look at the intention of of the heart of that particular man or woman, boy or girl or whatever, then it's easier for us to be able to live more peaceably and agreeably and come together on on certain things. So I was just thinking about that when she said, how does it, the racism or how does all of that tie into even the ageism and things like that. And that's the best story that I could come up with, because every so often I do think about that story, and it just makes me laugh, about it.
Yes.
So.
And Jacquelah, thank you so much for sharing that experience, because that is exactly, I think that hit the nail on the head. That generational, like you said, that was the words that they used, at their time. And while it's not absolutely not appropriate now, you did understand. And I think one of the things I have to say, cheers to you, is because a lot of communicating with each other, intergenerationally or what, is listening, and not just listening to what the person's saying, but listening to their intent. And I think that really that can help a lot of the generational barriers, because like you said, people may not mean to offend, it's, you know, but it's also an educational teaching moment for them to understand that, you know, while that was okay back in the day, it's not great to use today. And so thank you for sharing that experience. I think that's great. Deanna, do you have any thoughts on how ageism intersects with gender and race relations?
Yeah, I think it does. I too have a funny story to tell. I think there's still a stigma in the community regarding gender, especially for females. We're still fighting for equality when it comes to pay. I think women have shown that they are more than capable of being CEO. They are more capable of being on the Supreme Court. They're more capable of running the household, raising the kids, and having a professional career. Although we usually don't get paid as well as men do. I think there are a lot of men, and there are women out there that will not go to a woman stockbroker. No, she's not going to know enough. I can't trust her. I gotta have a male. Whether it be an attorney, a doctor, I think it's still alive and well out there. Recently, I had an experience going to a car dealership to purchase a new car. And I walk in with my husband, and we sit down with the salesman, and we, you know, say what we're looking for, and we start haggling, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how many times my husband had to tell not only the salesperson, but the general manager that would come out, you know, how's your haggling, and they bring out the new price and all that stuff. I'm not the one buying the car. It is my wife. You need to talk and address her, not me. And so I think, again, I think people are just so used to, oh, the man's got to take care of the finances. The man's got to make the decision. So I think we still have a long ways to go with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have a long ways to go with all of it. So,
Yes.
And that's another great example, And yeah, it's really just, yeah, Diane, that was a great question. And we are running out of time, and Diane has another question. So, and this kind of goes with our last question too, is other than too little intergenerational programming, are there any other ways nonprofit programming might be perpetuating ageism? And that's a great question. Do any of our panelists want to answer that? I think we'll have time for one person to answer that, maybe. Other than go ahead.
Yeah, here at VIA, we love bringing in interns from South. We love getting them into our adult daycare program, so they see, you know, what it's like as their grandparents are going to be aging, what to expect, what to learn, how to cope with it, how to work with them, treat them, take care of them. We also bring in South physical therapy students to come in and go through some of our fitness classes and interview our seniors to see what level they're at. They're always surprised at the activity level that our seniors are at. They just assume when they come to a senior center that everyone's in a wheelchair walking around with a walker and cane. And then when they get in here and they see seniors playing pickleball, they're shooting pool, they're playing cards, they're very active, they're in the fitness room pumping weight. And they actually struggle keeping up with the seniors in some of our classes. So I always find that very fun and interesting. And they love coming and interviewing. The history students over at USA have come over and started doing interviews with our seniors to truly learn firsthand their life experiences. So I think that's helping. I know our members are getting more and more used to the students being around. So that's what we're doing at VIA.
Awesome. I think that's a great, and let's see, Brian says there's a national program called Sage Meals that organizes events around intergenerational meals between older and younger folks. And he put the link in there, and that's a great resource, Brian. Thank you. And that really does bring us to how can we connect others and continue this conversation. And I want to be the first to say that if you would like to continue this conversation, I will be happy to arrange more conversation either in person or Zoom. You know, again, I'm going to put my email in the chat. So please reach out to me if you are interested in that. I would love to discuss it further. I'd love to maybe start some fun, like little roundtable trivia, intergenerational trivia, maybe that would be fun with older and younger folks. So I have a bunch of intergenerational ideas. While most of my focus has been with older adults, I have worked in the high school realm before and the college realm. So I would love to be the first to raise my hand and say, please reach out to me and let's make some of this intergenerational stuff happen. I will put in another plug for VIA. They also hold the Center for Intergenerational Studies from South Alabama. Dr. Roma Hanks is over that, and she is amazing. So I'm sure I can drag her in there too, and it wouldn't be kicking and screaming. This is her passion as well. And Brian, that's a great idea. That's something that we could definitely probably arrange the meals, and like I said, do maybe a little fun trivia. There's plenty of fun places around here that do trivia anyway. So I think that's a wonderful idea. We were actually planning that with my volunteers and some students from South when the pandemic hit. And unfortunately, we were never able to kind of get the trivia part together with that because the pandemic hit and everything just went nuts. So I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say just to answer a tidbit of that other question, like she said, they bring in, the young people from the colleges to VIA. Kind of on our end with Head Start, we kind of do the same thing. We work with the foster grandparents and bring those children, those foster grandparents into our classroom so that even our young children can begin to establish that relationship and recognize, the benefits of, those older, seasoned people being in the classroom and taking part in their lives, and they'll remember those foster grandparents just like they remember their teachers. So
absolutely. Wonderful. Absolutely. And I do have to say too, I think I can't leave this off of the table, but another thing about ageism, and really just for anyone regardless of age, is accessibility. We need to always think about accessibility. Diane, you asked what other barriers, nonprofits may have. And if, someone can't get into your door to be served, that's an issue. So that's something that we also need to kind of think about. I'll leave y'all with that tidbit. But I do want to thank our panelists today, Laura, Jacquelah, Deanna, thank you so much. That was really, really great conversation. Thank you to all the folks in the chat who asked some great questions. And of course, thank you so much to United Way for hosting these. I'm really excited. You've gotten me pumped up, and I am so ready to talk to all of y'all and bring in some young folks and some old folks together and just have a party. So
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, for leading this conversation. I really hope that all of you enjoyed session on ageism. And as we wrap up, of course, we have a poll. So I'm going to launch that as we close out. And again, these DEI trainings are a partnership between United Way of Southwest Alabama and the coalition, the South Alabama Coalition of Nonprofits. So together or collectively, we have a DEI training committee, and we work to plan and facilitate these training sessions. And next month in April, the topic will be on religion. So be on the lookout for that. And I really hope that everyone enjoys this beautiful weather that we're having and have a fabulous weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.